I'm making this video as a part 1 of part 2 of my Ibogaine treatment journey. This will serve as the before portion of the video, and then I will make a part 2, day 30 of when I complete the Ibogaine treatment, which I check in on Wednesday. I'm making this video on Monday, June 15th. 2026, and my Ibogaine treatment will be from June 17th to June 21st, 2026 at the Casa Santa Isabel Treatment Center in Rosarito, Mexico. I'm doing a 5-day treatment. Check-in is day 1. They do a full comprehensive blood panel, EKG, sauna session, hyperbaric session, a therapy session, and then the Ibogaine is supposed to last 24 hours, which I take on day 2. Followed by a rest day with more therapy and reintegration work, and then the 5-MEO DMT, which is supposed to be like the blissful heaven part of it. I'm making this video for a couple reasons, and originally I was going to type out something like kind of like a script for this video, but honestly I figured it would be better served coming from a more authentic place and just coming from the heart. I'm kind of nervous to be making this, honestly, not only because like what I'm going to share with you, but it's been a nervous time leading up to this treatment, and I just wanted to be as thorough as possible, explain my history, why I'm doing this, especially with Ibogaine being potentially clinically legalized in the United States. I feel like a lot more people are going to need to know or want to know what to expect. So this is my before video. So if you're watching this, my actual review of the treatment won't be happening until about 30 days after I post this, roughly, depending on how I'm feeling. It might be sooner. I'm not sure. Having said that, why have I chosen to spend almost $10,000 to travel to Mexico to do Ibogaine? Well, for the better part of the last 10 years, I have dove pretty headfirst into the realm of self-help, spirituality, psychedelic treatments. That has included but not been limited to thousands of hours of talk therapy, EMDR, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, my own intense just research and studying of peer-reviewed studies of psychological texts, philosophical texts. So that's been hundreds of books, thousands of hours of podcasts, thousands of hours of journaling, tens of thousand hours of meditation, time in nature, spending time with people that matter to me, studying relationship psychology. That's been a big one for me too, masculine and feminine dynamics, studying the mechanics and physiology of addiction, and because that's run in my family and I've had addictive tendencies as well. And I just want to say this right off the bat, this is probably going to be all over the place because I didn't type out a script. Again, I just wanted to kind of have it come off the cuff and just speak from the heart. So if it's kind of all over the place, if I bounce back and forth, I promise I'm getting to the point. Just let me get there. I tend to be long-winded, and I want to be long-winded in this because I think it's something that needs to be very intentional for people, and I think it's something that people need to go into with a lot of caution. I'm not going to tell my entire life story, but I'm going to give you guys a somewhat in-depth look into my life and what's led me here. So I've done all of those things. So when people say that they have tried everything, in my case, I can confidently say that I have. I have accomplished a lot of things in my life that I'm very proud of. I've made a lot of good decisions. For those of you that know me that'll be watching this, I am a professional touring musician. In addition to playing corporate events, hospitality venues, and I'm also in a band. I've made a lot of decisions and done a lot of hard things. You know, I've climbed tall mountains. In addition to the self-help work that I've done, this is actually the opposite of me trying to be self-righteous and brag about myself. I'm more just so saying it so you can get a kind of a whole picture of who I am and why I'm doing this. It might relate to something in your life as well. I spent 7 days in a completely dark room. That was a darkness retreat, a completely dark and silent room. I did 8 sessions of clinical ketamine therapy. I've done MDMA therapy. I've done psilocybin, cold plunge, sauna, different diets. I was carnivore. I was vegan, a mix of both. Like I've tried everything. And all of these things that I've done has been with one purpose in mind. And whether from a holistic standpoint or spiritual standpoint and a therapeutic standpoint, this probably hasn't been the right lens of which to view it, but for better or for worse, it's what I've done. I've tried to fix myself because in truth, I've never really liked myself, even from the time I was a kid. And I'm going to get to how that not liking myself has manifested into acting and behaving and doing and saying things, specifically in intimate relationships that have led me to where I am now, which is I had an engagement end several months ago, and here I am now picking up the pieces of yet another failed relationship. I told you guys it was going to be all over the place. It's probably going to be, just a heads up. I've never really liked myself. And no matter what I've tried to do, no matter what I've accomplished, no matter how much validation I've gotten from strangers on the internet or from women, that's where I've sought it out the most in my intimate relationships. It's never been enough. Somebody could, I could literally play, and I have done this. I've opened for some of my favorite artists, like getting off the stage and just like having it all just feel like, oh, well, I didn't deserve that. Or like I couldn't even enjoy it. So that not liking myself has also contributed to probably the deeper part, which is I just don't feel as though I have the capability to feel joy. I've felt it a few times in my life in a few different moments for, a few minutes here and there. And it hasn't been for a lack of trying. As I'm talking, like maybe joy isn't something you try for rather than something you just are or choose to be. People say that all the time. People that say, just don't be sad, just be happy. I mean, maybe that's cliche because it's true. Hasn't been very successful for me despite my efforts. So essentially why I'm doing this treatment is because I don't enjoy being alive very much. And after all the things that I've tried, while I have made exponential progress, and I can confidently say that I have, at the end of the day when I am alone, and I do enjoy spending a lot of alone time, but the constant rumination, the constant introspection, the constant pursuit of being productive and healing myself and fixing myself, all that it's led to is essentially more awareness of how inadequate I feel and how inadequate I am, whether I am or not. Who knows? That's up for debate. The people in my life that are close to me, like my mother, my brother, my close friends, they would probably speak very highly of me if I had to guess. Maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But while I've made a lot of positive choices and I consider myself and again, this isn't me bragging about myself, it's just giving context because I'm about to do the opposite afterwards. While I've made a lot of positive decisions and accomplished a lot in my life and received a lot of praise and have a fairly large group of friends and people in my life, and I tend to have fit in, a lot of those people haven't seen the dark underneath shit of all of that. And people I've been in intimate relationships with have, unfortunately. I've never done anything irredeemable, but in relationships, I have lied about who I am to gain their praise or validation. I have said things out of anger that are very hurtful. I cheated on one girl, broke her heart. I've shown up in ways that aren't truly authentic because my true authentic self, I would argue that all of those women did get to see, especially my last relationship, because I really tried to do everything right. And that actually worked because I was genuinely happy. We were engaged, but there were some things, it wasn't even actually why we ended up breaking up, but in the end, things that she found out about me that I lied to her about. And also, but the biggest main reason was that I've really struggled in intimate relationships, having conversations that I don't take as an attack or a criticism. Or if I believe strongly about something or I've researched it or whatever it is, I've had a really challenging time not trying to win an argument and be right. To sum that all up, essentially, there's this part of me that I'm really proud of, and I love that person when I'm acting out of kindness and curiosity and understanding and bravery and courage and doing all the things that I want to do as a man. Just being a good person. But there's this other side of me acting out of that self-hatred and activating that fear of being truly seen and understood and exposed that has led to me ruining what could have been something probably really good. I would say that the overwhelming percentage of reasons why my intimate relationships have failed is because of me. Sometimes I have clearly chosen the wrong partner. And that's just, everybody does that, whether you're a healthy, healed person or not. Sometimes you're just going to do that. But I want to take the overwhelming majority of blame and responsibility for it because things I've done and said, while there are reasons for it underneath the surface, there's no excuse. And they were just childish and wrong and pathetic, quite frankly. And mostly just embarrassing and humiliating. And it was all stuff that could have been easily avoided had I just chosen to be fully myself. Which leads me to probably the most underlying thing is I'm afraid to truly be myself in intimate relationships because I'm afraid of them seeing that and not wanting me. I'm going to try not to get emotional. I've been in a lot of intimate relationships. And I've kind of basically, since I'm 30, I just turned 37. As embarrassing as this is to admit, for the past 12 to 15 years, I have pretty much been in and out of relationships. And I always talked about how much I love being alone and love being like that guy who can just like do things alone, which I can. But relationships, they don't actually find me, but they just, because I subconsciously probably seek it out, but they find me and I find them. And I tend to fall very quickly. I tend to move very quickly. And in my last relationship, I've been calling it this almost there mentality, because I was almost there. While we were incompatible in hindsight, in a few certain ways, I still believe that we could have made it work had I obviously been more transparent and not lied about the things that I did. And it didn't involve any like infidelity or anything like that, because I fucking loved her. But also just my inability to stay curious in an argument over stuff that really didn't have any effect on our relationship to begin with. But something that I should mention is I do have a small degree of traumatic brain injury from a concussion and also a head injury I experienced in December of 2024. Pretty much daily, I get these shooting head pains that also affect my ability to do things. I felt more forgetful lately. The SPECT scans show damage to my ventral striatum. From what I understand, it's nothing like necessarily life-threatening. That's just something that I should mention, just because of the fact that this treatment has been shown to heal traumatic brain injuries. So I'm also looking forward to that part. But honestly, the head pain is something that I just feel like I deserve anyway. So the head pain is not even a real reason why I'm doing this. I know that this is getting long, but again, I just wanted to be thorough. All of these things, as anybody who's dove into the world of psychology, CPSD, complex PTSD. All of these manifestations of adult behaviors trace back to a series of events when we were kids. And again, I want to preface this again by saying I am not making excuses for myself, because while those things that happened to me, which I'll explain in a minute, were not my fault, they are my responsibility as an adult to heal. And that's truly what I've tried to do. And you can say whatever the hell you want about me, but that's one thing that I have genuinely done is fucking try to like fix this. And Ibogaine is one of my final attempts, but I'll get to that as well. I grew up in a household that was very unstable. My parents were divorced when I was 5. They kind of stayed together a little bit. My mom, and I don't want to disparage my mother, because she is literally been the most fantastic, wonderful, loyal, awesome mother for the last 20 plus years. I'm just saying this for context. She's probably going to see this. She was pretty severely addicted to drugs when I was a kid and absent for most of my formidable years, which was basically from age like 8, 9 to 16, 17-ish. With like seeing her periodically in between. And I was always the one defending my mother. I remember that specifically as a kid, like defending my mom to my dad and my brother, because they were like, no, Casey, like she's messed up. She's not going to be here. And I would always like defend her. I would always want her there so badly, because like I just wanted her there, you know? And she wasn't, because she couldn't be. And what was going on for her at the moment is like that's what she felt like she needed to be doing. Or maybe if she didn't even feel like she needed to be doing that, that's what she was doing. And my dad had it having to take care of my brother and I. He was also a severe alcoholic, functioning alcoholic. He was always there. He was a great father, but that was also a thing. And my dad had an extremely challenging life. Like his mom lost to suicide. He lost his dad at 12. His brothers died by the time he was 20. Just my dad had such a traumatic childhood, as did my mom. Both sides of my family come from neglect, abuse. There's this test called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Test. Everyone in my family pretty much would rank a 10, including me. There was a lot of physical, not abuse to me necessarily, but like, although there were some things happened to me from other family members that didn't involve my parents, but my parents really didn't know what they were doing. And because my dad had to work and take care of my brother and my brother kind of internalized things in his own way and kind of went his own direction with, you know, his path in life, and starting at an early age, I was alone a lot. And when I was alone in those moments, I had a very active imagination. I would imagine a life that was completely different. I would talk to myself. And then coming into middle school and high school, I was so afraid even then to be seen by my friends and people that were close to me in my life, that's where like this like tendency to lie about who I was kind of came from. Fortunately now, and you know, I'm 37, I do my absolute best to tell the truth at all times. It's still scary to me and I don't always succeed at that, but I try. Going back to childhood, like I grew up, again, very active imagination. That's where this like kind of, I hated my life. I hated my situation. So in that moment, I was like, in addition to the imaginative attitude, I kind of developed somewhat of a overachiever, perfectionist mentality. I thought there's only one way out of my situation, and that is to do the best I can in school, in sports. So that's what I tried to do. And then when I started playing guitar when I was 13, it's like, I'm going to get really good at this so everybody sees how good I am at it. I always loved that feeling of getting complimented by other people because it made me feel that I was worthy of it. And when you're a kid, you don't know any better. And I think that all of us go through that as kids, but if you don't heal that as a child, and if you don't get that as a child, you're going to carry that into your adult relationships, the dynamics, and every area of life. But that's what I did. So I tried to excel at school. I did very good at school. I got tons of academic scholarships. I got a scholarship for wrestling. Through these accomplishments, it was like, this is my way out of this life. This is my way to like distract myself from the fact that I just hate myself. I hate my life. Seeing everybody else with like happy families and 2 parents in the household, and then I was very angry too. I was just such an angry person. And that anger and self-loathing and imaginative reality became my reality. It became who I was as an adult because you can outrun it for a while. It comes to a point where you can't anymore. And around the time I was 24, 25, I did mushrooms for the first time. And when I did psilocybin, it allowed me to see, oh, there's a whole other reality that I'm not seeing. And also there's a whole like section of my subconscious that I've never looked at. So that's when I started it. But I even took that on as an accomplishment field. I took that on as that I'm going to excel at this too. So I'm going to get really good at yoga. I'm going to read all the spiritual books. I'm going to listen to all the podcasts. And that's what I did because my entire life, I have measured my self-worth based on how much I can produce, what I can offer somebody else. And especially in my last relationship, but to a degree in all of my relationships, I've always given a lot. But we hear the golden rule. It's, treat others how we want to be treated. The deeper part of that is we should treat others how they want to be treated. And while I'm sure that, especially in my last relationship, she appreciated all those gestures, what she really needed was to feel emotionally safe, get the fullest, most transparent version of myself, which is, by the way, something that I always preach to her. Like, be authentic, tell the truth. And to be fair, like 95% of the time I did, but it was that 5% of the time that I didn't that led me here again. So all of the anger, all of the imagination, all of the self-loathing, all of the self-hatred that I've experienced, despite having so much evidence of the contrary of why I should love myself and just be myself, how cliche that is because it's true, I've never been able to really do it. No matter all the things that I've done, all the things that I've tried, it's really just made me feel worse, to be honest, because I think to myself, okay, I'm doing all of this work. I've done all this work. And yes, I have made tremendous progress, but that little thing inside of my head still remains. And I refer to it as the steel box. I don't know why that analogy has come to me, but like that's just what I refer to it as. That no matter what I do, no matter what I accomplish, no matter what therapy I try, everything, that little steel box in my head that's just buried so deep in my subconscious, it never goes away. And that steel box is filled with self-limiting beliefs, with literally manifesting bad things into my life, with all of the regrets I feel, all of the things that I've done. Like people say, oh, like no regrets. Don't think about your past. Can't fucking do that at all. And I've never been successful at that. I ruminate on every mistake I've ever made every day. And people say, well, hating yourself doesn't help. Well, loving myself seems impossible, despite, again, not really ever doing anything that bad. That's how I feel about myself. I cannot let go of things that I've done. And nothing I ever do is good enough for me. And nothing that anybody else ever does for me is good enough for me because I've said things that I've expressed my wants and my desires, especially in my last relationship. I made a practice of doing that. I expressed it. She did it. It made me cry in the moment. And then I realized 10 minutes later that steel box is still there. So I've learned so much, and I could tell you guys 1,000 quotes that have helped me a lot. But one of the biggest ones is, I definitely don't think that I made this up, but for argument's sake, I'll say that I'm making it up right now. No amount of external validation from other people or external accomplishments will fill the internal void. It's an unfillable cup. But this is coming from a person who has done literally everything to try and fix that thing. Oh, another thing I've tried is the God thing. hasn't worked. And that's a big one that upsets me when people say there's a God-sized hole in your heart. Well, I've tried. And maybe a God exists, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I do think something exists, and I do pray, and it does feel like it helps a little bit in the moment. The steel box remains, and it never goes away. And that steel box has been responsible for every horrible decision that I've ever made, every bad choice I've ever made, every regret that I have. And I have tried everything to try and get that steel box out of my head. So why Ibogaine? Well, if it brings a Navy SEAL to their knees and fixes their extreme alcoholism or their abuse or their affairs or somebody's 10-year heroin addiction or their depression or their anxiety, I'm going to fucking try it. Full disclaimer for everybody watching, this is not cheap. Fortunately, I have busted my ass for the last 2 years to save a lot of money. And so spending $8,500 to go do this treatment, I understand that's not in everybody's wheelhouse. And to be honest, I don't think it's going to work. If I'm being completely truthful, I think I'm going to walk out of that treatment center on day 5 this Sunday and just still feel the steel box. That's what I truly believe. And that's probably the worst attitude to have going into something like this. Like just have to be optimistic. It's like, I can't. I have tried. I can't do it. I don't have whatever skill that is. And I've fucking tried. The past couple months have been really challenging, obviously, because of the breakup. I'm still heartbroken, but I have been taking really good care of myself, and I do feel very clear right now, and that's the best that I can do going into Ibogaine. But Ibogaine apparently is profound at reopening neural pathways and giving you a chance to rewatch times of your life from a third-party perspective, and it's supposed to be literal hell. Most psychedelics are kind of enjoyable. Ibogaine is supposed to be the opposite. So it's the last thing I haven't tried other than pharmaceutical intervention, and I refuse to use pharmaceutical intervention because it doesn't work, and it just creates a Band-Aid, and I've done every therapy possible. I've made the decision that it's my final descent into this world. It's my final attempt at trying to fix this, which leads me to the possible few options that happen after this. Option 1 is I don't want to be alive anymore. And the last year, especially, despite my life being objectively better than it ever was in that time period, making great money in a relationship that made me really happy for once, I still slept horribly. It's another thing that I didn't mention. My sleep is terrible. I've tried everything. Don't comment below like, have you tried fucking melatonin? Because I should have a fucking double doctorate in sleep science by now. So please just save those comments. I've tried everything for sleep. Despite my life being objectively better than it ever has been, I don't really feel like being alive. Not in a suicidal way, but just I just don't want to exist anymore. Because if this is what life is, if this is what life is going to be, I've reached a point in my life where I can't do it anymore. And whether you agree ethically with this, I honestly don't really ethically agree with it, but I have strongly considered and even filled out the application to participate in the MAID program out of Canada, which is medical assistance in dying. I've strongly considered that, and especially if this doesn't work, it'll be another strong consideration for me. And that's where I'm at. Option 2, it doesn't work. And I do the one thing that I've never been able to do, which is I am going to find it in the deepest part of my soul to practice the one thing that I never truly have, which is acceptance. Radical acceptance of who I am, what I've done. No more shame, no more guilt. I've tried that path before. Hasn't really worked, but that's, I suppose, an option that exists to keep trying. Or option 3, it works. And then I have no idea what to do. I've had so many blessings in my life, and I've gotten so many chances, and I haven't squandered all of those chances, but I've squandered a lot of them, and I've acted and behaved, and just my way of being has been so awful. Having this life that I do what I love for a living. I have this big group of friends. I see them a lot, but I'm not like lonely by any means. I had the opportunity to, from what I thought at least, be with my soulmate, and nothing would ever tear us apart in my last relationship. Whether that's true or not, that's how it felt, at least. I've been gifted so many things by the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, and I don't have the ability in me to feel grateful and feel joy for them. I just don't. So this is my final attempt, going into it with that fix-it mentality. I don't know if even that's the right way to go about it, but that's where I am. And that's why I'm doing this. I hope that at least some of you related to that, maybe you won't. But I wanted to make this mostly for myself, but also because I haven't seen a before and after thing on Ibogaine yet, and I thought this could be helpful. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that life can be more than this. There has to be more to life than this feeling. You know, having the world on a silver platter, it seems like I've obviously, you know, had a lot of shitty things happen to me. I'm not saying that, but I've crawled my way out of it, and I've survived it, and I've accomplished these things, and I've done these things. And to a degree, I feel this sense of pride in myself, and everybody else tells me, like, Casey, like, why do you feel this way about yourself? Everybody in my life, I have a great support group of people. They tell me the same thing. Casey, you should love yourself. You should be proud of yourself. Like, we love you. I just can't feel it. I'm not even sure if I know what love actually is. As beautiful and wonderful as something like that is, like, I don't even know, like, if I know what it is. And again, it's not to disparage my parents. It's not to disparage what I went through as a kid, because I don't want to do that, because I want to take responsibility for it. But that's where a lot of the anger comes from, I think. Is like, why couldn't I have just fucking had that as a kid? You know, why did I have to go through all of this? And like, why am I like this? Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if any of this is even going to be helpful, but I wanted to make it. Who knows what to expect? And I feel like the best way that I can honor what I've went through, and also what I've done, the hurt that I've caused to the few people that I've hurt pretty bad, is to do my absolute best to become the man that I told, especially my last relationship, told her that I was, but who I tell myself that I am. Again, I feel like on one hand, I'm this kind, generous, loving, silly, goofy person who's intelligent, and like, I've done so much research. I have a college education, built a career as a musician. Like, I've climbed tall ass mountains all over the world. I've gotten to open for some of my favorite artists. I've done really hard things, but then there's still this like self-loathing, self-hatred that just doesn't go away. And nothing has worked. That's not to discourage anybody else from continuing that path. Eckhart Tolle calls it the dark night of the soul. And he says it lasts anywhere from 10 to 15 years, and I'm getting to the upper end of that. So I'm hoping, with all the intentionality and love in my heart that I can foster, and optimism that I can foster, that this is the end of it. But I don't have a lot of hope. And I think that's where I am in general, is I just don't have a lot of hope for anything anymore. This was probably really depressing, but I just wanted to be honest. I wanted to be truthful. I wanted to be authentic. I wanted it to be raw, so that hopefully you guys, if it relates to you at all, maybe this is something you can look into if it works. Again, this is part 1 of part 2, and I suppose you can stay tuned for part 2. So let's see if this works. Wish me luck. Thank you for watching.